Hi everybody, it is Julie. Welcome back to Pages and Pens. Today I am here for the beginning of my January vlog style wrap up and discussing all the books I've read. Let's jump right into it. Today's the 9th of January and I've been shit about vlogging. I kind of put my camera away after my 12 days of Vlogmas, 12 days of giveaways, and I didn't really film again. I'm going to tell you all the things that I've already read in the month of January because I've read a few things. Let's start at the beginning, shall we? I DNF'd Worst Best Man by Mia Sosa. It was sent to me by Avon Books, and I have a couple issues with this one. Namely, the writing style. It's told in first-person POV with dual POVs. The way that the characters talk to themselves and the thoughts that they have sound very much like it's breaking the fourth wall, like they're talking to the reader, like, little do they know that I know this, or not to brag, but I know that I'm better at this than they are, and it's like, I've never said that in my own head, so it sounds like they're talking to the reader, and I could not get into it. Also, this follows a woman who's left at the altar the day of her wedding, and instead of the groom telling her, he has his brother do it. And all we know is that at some point during the night before the wedding, when they were out drinking, the brother said something that convinced the groom to not go through with the marriage. So when the brother goes to tell her that, like, hey, he's not showing up, she goes, let me see your phone, and she sees that he must have said something that convinced him not to marry her. So all through this, we have a woman who's mad at the brother instead of her ex, which is ridiculous to me. Like, why would you not be more pissed at your ex? But for some reason, she's more angry at this brother. The main character is Brazilian American, so there's a lot of Portuguese spoken in this, but it's never with any kind of context or, like, context clues about what's being said. I don't speak Portuguese. I don't even speak Spanish. So no way for me to decipher exactly what's being said. And she speaks it a lot with her family. So anytime the family is involved, I have no idea what's taking place. And I did flash forward to like a sex scene, and I flash forward to the end, and I don't get it. I have never seen a more awkwardly written sex scene in my entire life. I don't know if there's been discussions that took place before this with the characters that lead to the kind of instructional sex that took place, like if that was something that they discussed that they needed, but I don't think so. I mean, who knows? I only got like 65, 70 pages into actually reading it, and then I skimmed DNF. It wasn't a great start to the year, and I actually DNF'd one other book, The Night Country by Melissa Albert, which I got solidly halfway through. I actually had an e-arc of this, and I didn't get to it before publication date, and I had pre-ordered it because it's gorgeous, but I stopped reading it. I don't think this is a hard DNF. I think at some point I will go back and finish it, but I really was not enjoying the story or the characters, and I've heard people say if you love the first book, The Hazelwood, you're probably not going to love this one, and if you hated The Hazelwood, you'll probably like this one. I don't know why they would be written that differently, because if you hated book one, you're not going to read book two anyway. And if you love book one, you want more of the same. Do want to finish this at some point, but right now it's marked as a DNF because I'm putting it aside and I don't know when I will pick that back up again. So who knows? Let me switch out my battery and then we'll go over the rest, because I did actually read things. Firestarter by Tara Sim. This is the third and final book of the Timekeeper series, and I did really enjoy it. I am giving this one 4 stars. I think my favorite is still the first book. Stakes are a lot higher. A lot is going on. She doesn't hesitate to like kill people off and really put her characters through it. And I love that about her. There is like a convenience aspect to some of the different ways that this plot wraps up. That, like, again, stakes are really, really high, but some stuff towards the end, I'm like, it's convenient. It's a fantastic series as a whole. It's very diverse, and I can't recommend it enough. So glad I finally finished this out, and I'm glad to kind of start my year finishing out a series, which was very, very nice to do. I also read Heroine by Mindy McGinnis, and this is possibly one of the most difficult books I've ever read. I've read a lot of difficult books. I don't stray away from hard-hitting contemporaries at all. I did tab this, I did annotate this, and this is going to a Patreon supporter. It hurt me in like a physical way. Like there were times in this book and they're in my annotations, where I had to put this down and stop reading for the day because it physically hurt my heart to continue. This follows Mickey, who is in a car accident with her best friend Carolina, and both of them are injured in the car accident, but Mickey is a catcher on the softball team. Carolina is the pitcher. Carolina injures her arm, breaks her arm, and Mickey's hip is completely dislocated. And so they both have a lot of recovery ahead of them. Mickey ends up with screws in her hip, and she ends up getting prescribed oxys as a way to manage the pain because, you know, your hip getting dislocated like that, physical therapy, all that is painful. And she gets hooked on painkillers and has to, you know, find a way to continue to supply herself. There's a lot of kind of like mental health reasons for that too. Obviously, as an elite sports, you know, person, she's on a great team. She's supposed to be getting scholarships to colleges for, you know, sports, and there's a lot of pressure on her. There's a lot going on. And you watch her decline into addiction, the denial, and you watch her eventually adapt and struggle with a heroin addiction. And it is so tragic and so disturbing. It's a 5-star read. It was a fast read because I didn't want to put it down, but it is so heart heavy and it is so disturbing, and I am so glad that it exists for teens. Absolutely terrifying. It's really dark, and it doesn't shy away from the pitfalls of addiction. It doesn't shy away from how hard withdrawal is and what it does to your body. It doesn't shy away from the dangers of drug addiction. It's such a prevalent issue in our country, and I'm really glad that this exists out there for teens so they can see how quickly you can descend into something like this and just how difficult it really is. But it was really difficult to read, and I went into it knowing it was going to be difficult to read, and I don't think I understood, for me personally, how difficult this was going to be to read. Like, it hit me a lot harder than I thought it was going to. So that was a 5-star read. And I can't believe it. Anyway, then I followed it up with an audiobook of The Beast is an Animal by Petronelle van Arsdale. This is I believe one of my 20 and 20 books that I wanted to read. And I got the audiobook of this and read it and absolutely loved it. This is like a dark fairy tale about soul eaters that these women who have been wronged, and they become soul eaters. They're able to feed off people's fears, and they just lay waste to these towns. And in particular, this one town where now all the children are now orphaned because they just lay waste to all the adults. The children have to go to a neighboring town and get taken in by that town, but there's a lot of like religious fanaticism. It's very much kind of like a historical setting. Witch hunts are very much a thing. And it follows our main character, Alice, as she tries to adapt to a new town, a new family that has kind of adopted her and taken her in, when she feels this kinship to these soul eaters. Really dark and kind of haunting. It's very like creepy woods, but it is so good. I love the writing style. I love the characters, the different themes that are explored through this writing, and it is, man, it's dark. And the audiobook got downright creepy at times, but it was really, really good. Also started reading Beware the Wild by Natalie C. Parker. This one is about like a creepy swamp. I'm a chapter in. Like, I just started this last night, and it is so freaking creepy. The main character's brother, Phineas, runs into the swamp and doesn't return. But out of the swamp comes this woman in his place, and nobody remembers her brother Finn at all. And her mom's like, "Come on, girls, come in for dinner." Her brother never existed, and this swamp lady, everybody thinks is her sister. I'm intrigued. So that's where I am right now. A 4-star, 2 5-star reads, 2 DNFs. I'm going to keep reading. We're going to see how I do, but I am not being shy about my DNFs this year. I hate that I started on a DNF, but it's just how things go. We're going to get into a couple of books that I finished. I don't know if I talked about Any Way the Wind Blows by Shauna McGuire, but that was a short novella. Sparked my interest because the Flatiron Building is on the cover, and I was like, oh, I haven't heard of this before. Turns out it's pretty much just like a love letter to the Flatiron Building, being the home of Tor, which is her publisher. And then they've since moved out of that building. They moved into a new one. A fantasy world where there's all these like layers of realities, and this spaceship kind of travels between them to check on things, make sure everything's running smoothly. In all of them, they look for this building, or that tends to be one of the buildings that they look for to see where each reality is. It was just like a really cool little letter about the Flatiron Building, about people who like enjoy books, and if you kind of are in the know about the Flatiron Building, you'll appreciate it. You'll get the message. It was quick. It was only like 20-30 pages, but I enjoyed it a whole bunch. I also had finished You Must Not Miss by Katrina Leno, which I read with Kathy, and we buddy read this. We talked about it as we read, and I started off really strongly hoping that this would be like the Katrina Leno that I 5-star, that I really connected with. The beginning of it was beautiful. I really liked the writing. I tabbed it. I annotated it. I regret doing that because it was a 2-star read. I've enjoyed them enough to keep on my shelves, and I've annotated them, and I figured this one would be no different. It was different. Basically about a girl who has this tragic home life. Her mother is an alcoholic. Her father has left them for reasons that you find out when reading the book. And her sister has taken off because her mother has been an alcoholic before, fallen into this spiral before, and the sister said, I'm old enough now, I can get away, I don't want to be around this. Really sorry, you're still a minor, I can't take you with me. You're just gonna have to deal. And so she's kind of all alone, and she realizes that she can create an imaginary world with her writing. So she writes in this journal, and the world that she kind of writes for herself as an escape becomes a real place. A lot of characters that are dealing with a lot of difficult situations. One of her friends has a father who's committed suicide. One of her friends is a trans boy. But everybody kind of has like a backstory, right? Like she falls out with her best friend and meets this group of like the misfits of the school. I like the friend group a lot. I like the love interest in this a lot. I would give my life for Ben. But other than that, this book was just not what I wanted it to be. I felt like there was a lot of places that Katrina Leno could have gone with this world that Magpie creates, and instead it just spiraled into the weirdest shit, and the author made choices that I just don't think made sense. Truly didn't enjoy it towards the end at all, and I really regret that because there was a lot of potential. But the way that Magpie chooses to utilize her imaginary world, the way that things weave or don't weave together is like maddening. And you have a kid who has people that are reaching out to her, trying to help her, trying to show that they care, trying to show that they love her, trying to show that there are other people in her life that aren't going to be shitty. And she still just pushes them all away, and it's really frustrating. A 3-star book for me is still a book that I enjoyed. A 2-star book is one that I genuinely don't enjoy. And this is one of those, so did not enjoy it. If you are interested in Katrina Leno, don't start there. The other books are better. Then I also read Songs from the Deep by Kelly Powell. This is a debut novel. This one came to me in an unplugged book box. And I, for 2020, have made a spreadsheet of all of my unread books, and then I also made a list in there, like a column in the spreadsheet, if the audiobook is on Hoopla or if it's on my Overdrive app, and if I can find alternative ways to read books. I went ahead and I listened to this one. I didn't read it, I listened to it. And I gotta say, it wasn't horrible, but I also didn't love it. This one follows our main character, whose name I legitimately forget, and I just finished it today. Moira, who lives in this seaside town. I don't know if it's an island. It's definitely oceanside, and the whole town knows that there are sirens in the water. They all keep iron on them to stay safe. A body that shows up, and everybody's blaming the sirens, except Moira knows enough from the way that she's grown up, because her father was obsessed with the sirens, to know that it doesn't look like a siren attack. She thinks a human's to blame, and she doesn't want the sirens to take the blame for it, because there is currently a hunting ban on them. Nobody can go out and kill the sirens. They're protected. And she knows that if bodies start showing up again, they're going to try to lift the ban. They're going to go kill these sirens. And she feels really connected to them because it reminds her of her father, who's no longer with her. Jude, who is the lighthouse keeper, something tragic happened and they separate. They kind of go their own ways. And then they come back together for this book to try to solve the mystery. Also, this is less of a siren or mermaid story. Like, they exist, but you really don't explore them that much at all. It really is more of a story about this girl and her dedication to her father's memory to try to keep these sirens protected, and her kinship towards them, even though she doesn't really know anything about them, has never really engaged with them before. There were a lot of plot points that were not surprising to me, but in general, I still enjoyed it. It's my update for right now. I'm trying to finish up the last 120 pages of Beware the Wild by Natalie C. Parker so that I can get into Dark Dawn tomorrow. I'll keep you posted. who knows? Hi friends, it is me with the end of my January wrap up, and I have on par been really crap about filming my updates. So I have a stack of books here that I have finished at the end of January that I need to go over, and I will do better in February. It is February 1st and I have not finished anything yet. So I'm not falling behind yet in February, which is a plus. But I did finish Beware the Wild by Natalie C. Parker, and I actually really enjoyed it. I'm pretty sure I gave this one 4 stars. I don't have my computer in front of me, but this one was about a girl. Brother goes into the swamp, and out of the swamp comes a girl who's claiming to be her sister, and nobody in the town remembers that she even had a brother, and this girl kind of tries to replace her brother, and then we go over this lore in the town with the swamp and the creatures in the swamp, and I truly really enjoyed it. It was creepy at times. I liked the story. I liked what it said about sibling relationships and friends and trust, and I was here for it. I really, really was. And I'm impressed by Natalie C. Parker's writing because I have tried one other thing from her and I didn't love it. So this one was a win. I'm gonna count that one as a win, guys. Then I read Parasite by Myra Grant. I actually listened to the audiobook of this, so this one is not annotated or tabbed, but I do have book 2, and I will be continuing. This one is a medical thriller by Myra Grant / Shauna McGuire. And this one follows a world in which you can take a tablet, and in that tablet is a parasite. And that parasite will then keep you healthy, and it somehow attaches to your DNA, and it's able to correct things like diabetes and cancer and just generally keep the population safe, except something goes wrong with the parasites that have implanted the humans and an outbreak occurs. And we follow that. And the twists in this, I think the main one I saw coming, but in general, there were still a lot of really cool aspects to this. It is a medical thriller, so you've got to kind of be ready for that. But there is, Tamsy is one of like the most deranged characters, and I love Myra Grant's deranged characters where they're just really dissociated from what we consider normal behavior, and she just writes them really well, and I enjoyed the heck out of it. Then we had The Storied Life of AJ Ficker II by Gabrielle Zevin, and guys, I cried so hard reading this. Look at these annotations. Do you see these tabs that are in this book? I read this in audiobook. I read this in audiobook and stopped enough to tab this that, like, I know I will be reading this in physical form again so that I can really annotate it. It has the most gorgeous quotes in this. This is about a bookseller, and his wife dies, and he is left a child on his doorstep, and his life after that, and he is so curmudgeon-y and so heartwarmingly amazing. It is just one of the most beautiful stories and one of the greatest love letters to literature. It was so actually stunning. An absolute joy to read. I loved every single second of it. The audiobook was fantastic. I laughed out loud so many times. I can't recommend this enough. I'm sure it's already on everybody's radar because I feel like this is one that a lot of people have talked about, and I just drag my feet on, and I really don't know why. I think maybe because it was like literary fiction and I didn't know if I was going to enjoy it, and I was so wrong, and there was no reason to worry. It was absolutely stunning and the most easy 5-star read. Also, because I don't think I said it, I think I gave Parasite 5 stars. Some serious standouts already though, like amazing books. All right, then I listened to I Hope You Get This Message by Farah Nazrishi. I do have a couple of tabs in this in different places because at different times I did start to like physically read it and then go back and forth. I really liked this. This is about 3 kids, and we follow them as the earth is given 7 days to maybe and maybe not. They basically decode a message from space that says Earth has just been one great experiment, and at the end of this 7-day deliberation by this alien communal, they'll decide whether or not this experiment needs to be terminated or not. We follow Jesse, whose father has left and whose mom is working double time. He doesn't have a ton of money. He is a gay teen, and we follow him in his kind of struggle to finish things up in a way that makes sense for him, right? Like he's trying to ease his mom's burden. He's trying to come to terms with a lot of things in his life. And he's maybe not proud of all of his decisions, but he tries to do his best to redeem himself in the end. And then we follow a girl who is trying to find her father. Jesse's dad died, and then the girl's father left, and her mom is schizophrenic, and she is trying to find her father because one of her mom's last messages was that she wanted her to find her dad. So Kate's just trying to find her dad. Adim is trying to find his sister. Everybody's just trying to like make amends before the end of the world. I really, really enjoyed it. Pretty sure I gave this 4 stars, maybe 5 stars. Regardless, a very, very strong book. I do have this, which is a signed arc, and then I also have the Owl Crate version. I don't know if I'm going to be keeping both. I really, really did enjoy it, but the audiobook was also really phenomenal, so I think I might just keep my signed arc. But regardless, a very moving, very powerful, very well-told story. None of the characters are perfect. They're all very, very flawed, but they're very real. Then I read Queen Takes Knights by Jolie Sue Burkhart. I think it's Jolie. That is that cover. This one is about a vampire queen. She does not know that she's a vampire queen, but she starts coming into her powers, and the vampire protectors start flocking to her, and she has to deal with all of that. Does she deal with all that very quickly? Yes. Does she also have a lot of very intense sex right off the bat? But I was fine with it as a vampire erotica goes. So I read Queen Takes Knights, which is not particularly short. I mean, it's still like a lengthy, full-length book. And then I also read Queen Takes King, which is book 2, and then King Takes Queen, which is book 3. I'm just starting now. So I read books 1 and 2. I gave book 1 4 stars, book 2 3 stars. Didn't love book 2 quite as much, but I'm hoping that as we go, it gets back to what I want it to be, which is just like a lot of smut. I feel like we started to like really shorten down the sex scenes in book 2 and just kind of make it like, hey, this is what's happening. And it was not fade to black, but not as detailed as the book 1 sex scenes were, which is what I was there for. So overall, not a bad start to the series. All of the books are on Kindle Unlimited, so I've just been reading through for free, which has been really, really nice. Also, I did have my smutty vlog that I read during this month, which I read a lot for. I'm not mentioning any of those books. You'll see them in the vlog, but I read all of those. Then my last read for the month was finally Kim Harrison's The Turn, which is a prequel novel to the Hollow series by Kim Harrison. You guys know I love Rachel Morgan. I love the Hollow series. The human race kind of being decimated a little bit. This kind of shows how we get to that place. And I 3-starred it, basically because I know the story. I know the story so well, and while I didn't know maybe all of the intricacies of what happened during the fallout that prequeled the novel, you do get filled in on some details as the series continues. So I just felt like a lot of this was unnecessary, if that's possible. It clarified some things, I think, for fans of the series, which I am. It's still a worthy read. It just isn't necessary, but it was still good. And this was on my 20 that I wanted to read in 2020, so I am trying to get through my backlist 20 and 20 list, and I'm also trying to get to the books that my niece wanted me to get to, and a lot of these were on there. I'm working through those lists as well, which feels really, really good. For the entirety of the month of January, I read 17 things. The 17 things that I'm counting also include a DNF, Night Country, and also Worst Best Man. I did continue reading The Night Country, so I haven't hard DNF'd it. I just stopped it at the time. I did try to like maybe wrap that up a little bit before the end of the month, and it just didn't happen, but I am going to continue. I got about 100 pages further, so that one I will still continue for the month. So 17 things includes 2 DNFs, one that's a soft DNF. I read 4,547 pages. Oh, I forgot one book. I read and annotated Dark Dawn by Jay Kristoff. This is one that I annotated and read for a Patreon supporter, and I mailed off her copy already. She got the US edition, and I got this amazing, gorgeous Waterstones with the black sprayed edges, which I transferred all of my annotations and all of my notes from her copy into mine. So this is what her copy looked like, just without the black pretty edges, and it looks so badass with these. Like, can you even? I still haven't rated this, and I still haven't reviewed it, and I don't know exactly what I want to do with this. Did I enjoy it? Yes. Did I love it? No. Do I think that it was a worthy conclusion to such a visceral, brutal series? Not really. without getting spoilery, I don't ship this ship. So the canon ship in this is not one that I support. It's not one that I ever felt connected to. And while Jay does a beautiful job of writing sex scenes, and he does a fantastic job at writing intimate moments, I just never cared for the ship in this book, or in this series really. I always had a main ship, like my OTP, and it wasn't the one that we kind of end up with, and so I just didn't care about a lot of the things that happened, and then the ending really disappointed me. I'm torn though, because it also has some of the most beautiful moments in it, some of the most high impact moments where if I cared about the main ship and the canon ship in this, I would have been destroyed. There's also stunning writing and quotable moments, and I think it was brilliantly crafted. He also pokes a lot of fun at himself in this book. And in general, I think the way that he wove all three books together was genius. And the way that he makes you care about characters is phenomenal, with the exception of the main ship. All in all, I can appreciate and value the talent that it took to put this book together. I just didn't find myself as impacted because I truly didn't care about a giant part of this plot, which is the main pairing. I'm leaning towards 4 stars. I gave 5 stars to Nevernight, 3 stars to Godgrave. I don't really know how to summarize that one. Also, one of the 17 books that I counted on this list is one of the books from my Kindle Unlimited reading blog. I'm not going to talk about it, so that's why you're not going to get all 17 of them here. It's because one of them I did count separately for that particular vlog on my spreadsheet because it's an ongoing series that I'm reading. Not a bad reading month. 17 books is really impressive while I was still writing and editing and doing a ton of things and had ALA and company over. I feel like I read really great books. I had a lot of really highly rated books. The Best Worst Man was a DNF. Any Way the Wind Blows was 4 stars. The Night Country was a soft DNF. Firestarter was 4 stars. Heroine was 5 stars. The Beast is an Animal was 5 stars. You Must Not Miss was 2 stars. Beware the Wild was 3 stars. Songs from the Deep was 3 stars. Dark Dawn I did put down as 4 stars. Okay. AJ Ficker II and Parasite were both 5 stars. Queen Takes Knights was 4. The Turn was 3. I hope you get this message. I did do 5. And Queen Takes Her King was a 3 star. 5 5-star reads in the month of January. Some of the ones that Charlie wanted me to read and some of my 2020 backlist I read. It was a good start to the year, especially because I'm coming into like my main arc season after ALA, and who knows what happens from here on out. But that was my January reading. I hope you guys have enjoyed my wrap up. That's going to be it for this one. If you liked this, please do give me a big thumbs up, click subscribe, and I'll see all of you in my next video. Bye guys.